it might ask you to think of a solution and what you think of a particular solution. So it might be something like, some people think the best way to fix this problem is this. So you would say why this solution is the good or best solution. Or you could say what's wrong with this solution, depending on your opinion. Pardon me. You might think about why it's bad, but still mostly good. So again, you're considering the other side. So, okay, this solution is not is a good solution. Here's why it's good. Now, some people think it's bad because of this, but there's still no better way because of this. So you're basically pretty much like we looked at the other kind of essay, trying to prove our side. Now, we still need to consider other solutions and why they are better or worse. So if you think this solution is the best one, you would say, here are some other solutions and why they are not as good as this solution, or vice versa. You could say, here are some other solutions that are better and why they are better than the solution presented in the question. And of course, we finish with our conclusion. That's not going to change. I'm going to say it again. Your conclusion should simply be one sentence. You are restating in new language your position and your main reason or your main solution, basically. So that's one kind of essay. There are other kinds of essays. For one that just asks you for a cause and whether you think it's good or bad, we start with our introduction, topic statement, opinion statement. Main reason why it happens in our BP1. So it asks for a cause, so we start with the cause. What is the main reason? Or actually, I'll put main reasons. You might put two reasons together if they're similar. If the reasons are very, very different, you could actually divide this into two paragraphs. Then we would say why it is good or bad. I put this here because that depends on whether you think it's good or bad. If you think it's good, you start with that. If you think it's bad, you start with that. Then you look at why it is bad, but why these bad things are less than the good. Now, I see some of you might get confused there, but basically your side and the other side, and why the other side is not as good as you. So it's basically the same thing we were doing earlier. And guess what's next? Good job, Tommy. Conclusion. Yeah, same thing. Restate your position, restate the main reason, and whether you think it's good and why. And you should be able to still do that. And you say, in summary, this happens because of this, and it is a bad thing because of this. Done. So let's start looking now at structure and signposting a bit. Well, we'll continue looking at structure, and as we're looking at the structure, we'll move on to look at signposting as well. So first of all, stop. Do not try to read all of this. We're going to look at this paragraph by paragraph in a moment. Okay, so this is a full essay. Have a look. We have an introduction. We have my BP1, my BP2, my BP3, and my conclusion. 5 paragraphs. It is over 250 words. I think it's like 270 words or something. 270 words is a nice length. 300 words is too much. I would say 250 is okay, but you want to go maybe 20 words over is nice. That way it covers everything. I think a good essay that covers everything very well will always be a bit more than 250. So I would say you're aiming to get between 260 and 280, around 270 words. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the question, and then in a moment we will look at each paragraph by itself. We'll look at the structure, and we'll look at the signposting language. So first, let's analyze the question. Some experts believe that it is better for children to begin learning a foreign language at primary school rather than secondary school. Okay, if you're not sure, secondary school is basically middle school and high school. Now, in China and many countries in Asia, you have primary school, middle school, high school. In Australia, in pretty much most schools, although I think some do have a middle school, most schools have primary school, high school. We have 6 years in primary school then 6 years in high school. Okay, so secondary school basically means after primary school. So for most people in my video are Chinese. So for you guys, secondary school starts with middle school. So it's basically saying, should we start learning, say, the English? For you guys, should you be learning English at like primary school when you're like 6, 7 years old, starting to learn the language? Or in middle school when you're maybe 12 or 13 years old, something like that? You know, they're the two choices. Let's have a look at my introduction. I start with a topic statement. In some European countries, children grow up learning multiple languages and often speak 3 or 4 languages fluently. Like my voice. So this is a topic statement. It's just introducing kids learning foreign languages. It doesn't have to say this language exactly. It just has to introduce to the reader that we're talking about children learning foreign languages. We do not have to mention primary school or secondary school or middle school. We don't have to mention opinion. In fact, we do not mention the opinion yet. Okay. So you'll see that the topic statement, there's no grammar structure for this. You have to think of it yourself. You probably see a bit of a structure. Like I usually start with a place or a time, then a people or a who, and a what. So normally place and time, or both place and time, people and what. But the grammar itself will change a lot. In terms of the opinion statement, this does have the standard structure. While some educators, not people, try to use a better vocabulary word, don't say people, because people, it means everybody. So we don't know who you're talking about. Some educators believe the best way to achieve this is to start learning that language in secondary school. Again, this works with the while. While some people think this, I believe this. Okay. I strongly believe, I really, really strongly believe this. I think, to me, this is 100% this side. There's no reason for the other side. So I strongly believe that language learning must start in primary school or sooner. Now, if you have children out there, if any of you watching have children that are 1 or 2 or 3 years old, they can start learning languages. There is so much evidence that says the sooner children start learning a language, the faster they will learn it. All the studies show this. So I'm very, very, very strongly in agreement. Okay, moving on, not talking too much about my personal strong beliefs. Let's focus on the grammar structure and the ideas, how we're fitting this together. So, again, you'll see I mentioned earlier 3 sentences in this paragraph. The main reason, this can be seen, not only. And again, I mentioned that each sentence might be around 25 words. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 words. This one's a little bit shorter, but around 25 words a sentence. You do that for all your paragraphs, you will comfortably get over 250 and get to around 270 words. Secondly, let's look at those 3 sentences. This is my reason for this opinion. The main reason why I have this opinion that children should start learning languages in primary school is that all studies show that the younger we are, the faster we learn a language. Now, let's try to use a bit of an example. I don't have an example of a specific study, but this can be seen in how quickly children under 8 remember new words compared to teenagers. Now, most of the IELTS examiners are English teachers. We mostly know that when you're teaching little kids, they will pick up words so quickly. You show them 100 animals and foods and colors and clothing and places and jobs, and they remember all of these words. You do the same thing with high school kids. They have to study at home for hours to remember these words. Little kids pick them up like that. And then I'm going to say, not only will these children remember things faster, but they will also gain longer years of language study and thus more effective language learning. So I'm saying not just is it faster for them to learn, but they're having more time to learn. So this is not so much an explanation, but more of an extra bit of information there that goes together. But again, language, signposting language, the main reason why I think this is that. Then I might give the example. I don't have to say, you can just say, for example, but there's different language you could use. This can be seen in how, or for instance. Another one you might use is, take children under 8, for example, who learn. So that's the kind of thing we use to give the example, or the second sentence in our BP. Now, the third sentence might be not only, or it could be if, meaning if this thing happens, this will be the result. So that third sentence often talks about the result that can happen, or what happens without this thing. Okay, another advantage of studying in primary school is that there are a lot more suitable and engaging resources for young language learners. So, another reason, because there's better resources. Okay, so I'm giving my second reason. I'm then explaining this. Children's books are simple, funny, and colorful, whereas teenage language books are much less engaging. And this means children over 12 have a lot less interest in the language and don't try as hard to study it. So you see how those three sentences fit together. This is my reason. This is me explaining that a little bit about what resources am I talking about. I'm talking about the books being funny and colorful. And then my explain is like what happens because of this? What's the result from these first two things? Okay, so that's kind of how my three sentences fit together. And again, you can look at my signposting language. Another advantage of this thing is that, and the second advantage. Now, in this situation, I've used the one I mentioned earlier, children's books, for instance, or for example. Okay, so different sentence structure to the previous paragraph. And that's really the most important thing, that your BP1, your BP2, your BP3 use signposting language, but that the signposting language is different for each BP. Okay, and then this leads to, again, the third sentence is, there's lots of different language you could use. There's no one kind of signposting language. Okay, let's look at the next one. Educators who support this might suggest a lack of attention in primary school students, but secondary school students, if you want to practice your pronunciation, say that 5 times very quickly. Secondary school students, secondary school students, secondary school students. Actually, it's not that hard. Are more organized and focused, and this will help them to learn language. Well, more organized and focused, to me, I'm saying, well, that's not about language, that's all subjects. So I'm actually just using 2 sentences here, because I'm just saying that could be for all subjects and not just language. So don't go to primary school is basically what I'm saying. That argument's silly because it's basically saying children shouldn't go to school because they can't pay attention. I'm just completely dismissing that argument because it's a silly argument. And it applies for all subjects. Finally, in short, the younger we are, the faster we learn. So it is clear foreign language classes must begin in primary school. Simple, strong, opinion, and reason. So actually, I've got reason and opinion. So you can put those two and move them around if you like. They work both ways. Simple, 1-sentence paragraph. So let's think. Some problems students have, they might have this kind of language to start each paragraph, first, second, third. Now, I don't mind using the word the first reason for this, or you might use, actually, no, you just shouldn't really use it. If you want to get a 6.5 or 7, you shouldn't be doing this. What's wrong with it? It's too simple. It's too easy. It's very low-level language. So try not to use language like this. For your BP1, you would say perhaps the main reason, the biggest advantage, the main cause of this problem, and then another positive, or it is also beneficial because. There's some simple signposting language, so please, if you want to have a look at that, pause and write that down. We're starting to run out of time. We're almost at the 30-minute mark. BP3, supporters of this might say or there are, of course, some positives of this, including. I'm not going to read all of those. You can read those on your own. But then in your BP3, you're going to say something like, however, this is only true in some situations. Or this argument is flawed, though, because of this. For your conclusions, one thing I want to be very strong: do not ever, ever, ever say, "in a nutshell." It is stupid. I don't know why so many Chinese students say this. I guess it's because some idiot wrote it in a book. And so hundreds and thousands and millions of Chinese students all across the country use this phrase. It's a silly phrase. It doesn't really work. Just use some standard language like this. Now, I've had some teachers say they don't like to use this standardized language for their conclusion. It doesn't matter. You're writing a 250-word essay, not a 5,000-word essay. If I'm writing a 5,000-word essay, I wouldn't use this language. For a 250-word essay, it's perfectly fine. You don't have a lot of time. Okay, guys, so thank you very much once again for your patience and listening to everything I've been saying. If you do have any questions, please contact us and I will answer those questions in our 10th video. Thank you very much and have a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, or day. Bye-bye.